I'm going to talk about Blockstack, which is my pet project, and I think you'll kind of see, like basically we're solving the same problems that Jim was talking about, but in a different way. But it's all the same kind of thing, really. So it's interesting to have synergy and like thinking about how this could work with made safe, and you know what the technologies are like under the hood. I'm not Ali Mooney-Badi, the CEO of Blockstack. I was given this presentation by Blockstack. So he does this disclaimer because Blockstack have just launched their stack token, and it's the first token to gain SEC approval in the US. So it's the first crypto token to get Securities and Exchange Commission approval and backing in the US. So it's quite an interesting thing. And whenever he did this talk, he had to look this up by their to comply with the SEC regulations.
Does that mean they can trade on the stock market?
I don't think so, not at the moment. The Stacks blockchain isn't quite live yet either, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. Yeah, so double disclaimer, that one, the fact that I'm not really valid. So, Blockstack today. So this is a very high level introduction to the kind of background of the project. I'm not a Blockstack employee, I'm kind of part of the community, I'm building apps within the Blockstack ecosystem, which I'll explain as I go through. So at the moment there's, I think this is about 3 months out of date, and I think these numbers have gone up since then. And these basically the apps that are, these are the badges of the apps that are running on the Blockstack ecosystem. So, what's Blockstack? Blockstack is a blockchain based solution, and it's made up of kind of 3 kind of core links: authentication, decentralized storage, and Stacks blockchain that's coming soon. I'll talk more about these as we go through. The team looks like that. That's just a few members of the core team. That's really bad on the left. These guys are all work together at Princeton, PhDs, and Blockstack basically came as a PhD thesis from Princeton. So what's the approach? This is very high level. So history of computing in a nutshell. So starting the mainframe, going on to the desktop era, we're in the cloud era now, and hopefully we're moving into the decentralized world where user data and identity are not owned by huge great corporations. Obviously MagSafe could easily fit on that mouse block. So I was thinking of this really cheesy analogy earlier. Where what Blockstack does and how it works is it's a bit like pulling the internet inside out. So I was thinking, like my friend Lisa used to have marigold rubber gloves, and she'd laugh at me when I tried to turn them inside out. And she said, "You just put it on inside out and then put it out." And it's like the job's done. So if you want to know how Blockstack works, it's like thinking about a marigold glove. Basically, we're pulling the data out of the big silos and into user data storage areas, and then the apps basically become things that just are clients of the user data rather than things that sit on top of the control user data. So that the main philosophy is it starts with authentication and user identity. So this is the idea that you basically own your own online identity. So you don't every website you go to, you no longer have to create a new identity. Or have that owned by Facebook or Google. And then building on there, that layer then gives you Gaia. And Gaia is the decentralized storage solution that Blockstack built. So I'll go into a bit more detail about that as we go along. And in Blockstack are running kind of how the apps work in this model. And the really kind of interesting thing about Blockstack is they basically reuse the infrastructure that's already there, but they use it in a way that allows end users to control their own data and whether it's encrypted or not encrypted. So what they do is kind of analogous to the way database drivers work. So you can have a database driver that will connect to Postgres or MySQL. In this way, Gaia is like a storage driver. So then Gaia connects to Dropbox or S3 or the local disk. So Gaia performs the role of a driver towards user data. So the users are bringing their own data via their Dropbox account, and then that is being accessed by the apps. So I think, like, rethinking this a little bit, the point about this is that so Afari is a kind of app replacement for Facebook, maybe one day. But the idea is you could have 3 Afari apps. You could have Gafari and Afari, and you could have 3 arrows. And the user who's using Gafari could say they don't like them, they don't like the way they work, and then it would be possible to migrate their posts and their images to Afari. So they're not locked into Facebook. Their posts and images aren't owned by Facebook. And then they can be migrated between whichever that provides the best solution for them in terms of social functionality in that case. Right, so how much of this is already there is basically the blue ticks. Blockstack started about 2014, and they started building on what was then the Namecoin blockchain. And then I think at some point they realized that Namecoin was mined, it was like 70% mined by one miner. And they realized that wasn't secure enough, so they switched to Bitcoin at that point. So the idea is their kind of fundamental blockchain layer is, like, supposedly they're blockchain agnostic, so they could even switch to run on Ethereum if the will was there to do that. So the parts that are already built, basically the authentication and Gaia, they're the 2 things that you really need to build an app. And the apps then just become JavaScript apps, so smart contracts. I built an app that I ran on Gaia with Blockstack authentication that also called smart contracts on Ethereum. So there's no kind of limitation about what technologies you can use. You're not locked into anything. It's literally just the sort of apps that every day the developers are building as things stand. Coming very soon are they're launching, there's already a Blockstack core, which is decentralized nodes running basically the naming service that gives you the decentralized identities. That's being released very soon. There's been a lot of kind of design decisions looking at what's happening with Ethereum, looking at things like re-entrancy on smart contracts on Ethereum. So they've decided not to use Turing complete smart contract functionality, which then has the advantage that you have interpreted code from, you have the code that you write is the same code that runs on the blockchain, which means you don't have compiler problems. So there's a kind of group of vulnerabilities in Ethereum that are associated with people injecting binary into smart contract code. Also, that makes things simpler. Yeah? So it might kind of slightly limit what you can do because you don't have loops in a non-Turing complete language. Yeah, things can be cool. And then this decentralized network of nodes will eventually move to a tunable proof of work type system. At the moment, this is like proof of burn. So you create stacks, they're native to by burning Bitcoin. So you basically, it's like merge mine with Bitcoin. It's the same crypto assurance. But I think over time we can transition. That's a bit tiny, but basically this is the kind of layer architecture Blockstack. So what I was saying before, this is like the blockchain layer. At the moment, that's Bitcoin, and probably always will be. But in principle, they could move away from that. But point about Bitcoin is that it solves this like this problem called Zuku's triangle, where you like if you think about the DNS system, you have DNS can give you it can give you a secure domain name, and it can give you a human readable domain name, but it can't give you a decentralized domain name. So Bitcoin basically provides the ability to have human readable, decentralized, secure names. So I've got like my Cohen.id. I know that no one else has ever registered that. So that's kind of the base functionality that Bitcoin provides. Is what's known as timestamping. It's a very core functionality for Bitcoin. That identity then gets hashed into the Blockstack layer, Blockstack core node, and creates this zone file. And then what the zone file does is takes the domain name and pairs it with a pointer, and that pointer points towards a Gaia hub. So that's the user's Gaia hub. So with an update on Bitcoin, they can change the association between their identity and the Gaia hub they're using, which gives them the freedom to be tied into a particular Gaia hub implementation or solution. And then the Gaia hub is then the thing that we'll come back to. So that does a lot more. But Gaia is basically this driver implementation. So you basically reads go directly to the storage, but writes go through the Gaia hub, and that manages credentials for the user's backend, Dropbox account or S3 account or whatever it is. Okay, so coming back out, app anatomy. So what does this kind of really look like? So the current situation on the left is the user base and the database basically siloed by application. So each application has users and database and data, and they're stuck together. What Blockstack have done is move to a situation where the user brings their own identity, so they log into app ABC, and then that app is able to access their Gaia hub and read and write data for the application to work. So it's a paradigm shift. So the pulling the rubber glove inside out is kind of like what's going on here. You're pulling these big siloed things, pulling the users away from the data. Yeah, so this is just reiterating what I just said. You bring your own identity, so you create your own identity by spending a tiny bit of Bitcoin, or there's a way of getting free identities at the moment. So you can have my Cohen.id.blockstack, and I can get that for free, or I can get my Cohen.id and I've earned a little bit of Bitcoin to do that. And in the background, they batch those registrations on Bitcoin, so they're not wasting blockchain resources. And then users own their own data, which I think is a bit more. So the identity of that, yeah. So it's just like OAuth, but with Blockstack you have a very lightweight server called Blockstack browser that runs on the computer. They have a hosted version of it if you don't want to do that at the moment. So that Blockstack browser will then take so you download an app, whatever it is, so it's a JavaScript app running in Chrome, and then that will authenticate you with Blockstack browser which you're locally, and that has a key pair that you control in the wallet, and then that is able to verify that's you using public key cryptography, and verify you're able to access that app. It gives you certain permissions, or gives the app certain permissions towards you, just in the way that Google and Facebook OAuth works. Yeah, but it's based on public blockchain. Yeah, and out of the auth process, you get this authorized key pair, which is really important because the authorized key pair is basically based on a key that's generated from the ID and the domain of the app. And that gives you a kind of unique URL for Gaia writes and reads, which means that your data for that app is siloed through Gaia using a unique hash. So it's if you compare it with IPFS, for example, IPFS is content addressable. So you hash the content, and then that content gives you that hash gives you the address. Basically, that means you can't write to that content. So with this, you don't do that. You hash the main URL and the ID, and that gives you a content addressable, an app ID addressable user data space. So then that app can, just like any app, can read and write. So if you're uploading items in an auction site, the app can just write to that space, and the hash that identifies that URL is always unique to the app and your ID. So this is kind of what I've just been saying. So Gaia provides this connection between the app talks to the user's Gaia hub, and then that accesses a uniquely addressable content space by the user's ID and the domain name of the app. And then where that actual storage is, we don't care. So the really nice thing about Blockstack is it just reuses the existing infrastructure. But of course now that data can be encrypted and used privately. So we've got incredibly secure encrypted user data, or we could not encrypt it and allow it to be shared depending on use cases. Obviously, if you want to build a search engine or something, you need to be able to read some publicly indexable data to provide search functionality. And the app, as I just explained, so the app storage is sandboxed by the fact that it's addressed by the domain name and the ID the user's private key. So really exciting thing about Blockstack is basically if you're a developer, you can do this in an hour. There's a tutorial. It's just JavaScript skills, implementing Gaia and all of this authentication is simple API calls to the libraries. A little bit about smart contracts. I'll just whiz through this. I'm going quite quickly. No? So coming back to what I was saying earlier, they're looking to build non-Turing complete smart contract functionalities using the Blockstack nodes, decentralized nodes. And so the reason for this is that interpreted code means that the code that you write is the code that runs on the blockchain. It's not passed through a compiler. And also it means that you're not, because of the Gaia solution, you're not trying to shove stuff into the blockchain. You've got Microsoft Azure or Amazon S3 for user data. So the smart contract can just be for the decentralized logic that it's kind of intended to be for, which is the big problems with Ethereum are basically that popularity of cryptocurrencies can take down the whole network. We don't know what that's going to look like after sharding. To be fair, I wouldn't quite be quite so unfair to Ethereum. I quite like Ethereum. I think it's pretty amazing stuff, and you can use, like I said, you can use Blockstack with Ethereum. There's no rules about that. But certainly with Ethereum, like most projects on Ethereum, will use centralized databases, normal authentication methods. Some are using IPFS as well. This is kind of drilling their point home a little bit. Okay. We all have problems, right? Any project that you work on is going to have hacks and it's going to have problems. It's going to be attacking it. There's going to be stuff going on. This is just restating the point. But in general, we're not app builders on the Blockstack app mining store. They're not building smart contract apps. They're building useful, decentralized applications that people can actually use. You can log in with your own identity and use your own data. Yeah, so app mining. So Blockstack have done this kind of clever thing while Ethereum's been going through its ICO bubble, and there's Ethereum is incredible, not just from the computer science, but from the community that's built around Ethereum and the tools it's generated, like Truffle and Ganache. But Blockstack's been kind of much more low key, and they've worked for 2 years getting SEC approval for the Stacks token, for example, before they've made any noise about it. And they've also put a lot of research into their app mining system, which basically is a competition that allows anybody to create an app in the system and then earn money from it. So these guys, Justin Hunter, who builds Graphite, since January he's earned about 120,000 in Bitcoin, and then he's got the appreciation on top of that. So this system has basically kick-started these developers. Unfortunately for me, I'm down at 28. I've got $49 in Bitcoin. So I'm looking for help getting higher up. That's basically where I'm at. Every month it gets harder because what's happening now is Blockstack have been paying out $100,000 a month to app developers, and they're increasing that over the next year to $1 million a month. So they're really kind of putting their foot on the pedal of really kickstarting this community, kickstarting development in their technology. And already this is 8 points, this is 200. This month it's just reached 200 apps. And of course, because the apps are earning money, they're getting more, they're professionalizing. So they know what they're doing. So this is out of date. The token offering has happened. The Stacks tokens are in public sale now. I think it ends in September. How to get involved, blah, 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 blah. This is my project. So I'm working on the Radicle Society. Morris is helping me. We've been building, what's on this slide? So I've got two apps in app mining at the moment. So this one's at 28, I think. This one's just got in at 74. So we're working to get these higher up so we can monetize the project and have a cash flow. And then this is a kind of a way of kind of kickstarting working independently, building something for yourself, and get going. And this is a kind of schematic kind of picture of what we're building. So my personal background is in auction functionality. Built a thing called BitLogics.net, which I left in 2018. So yeah, my initial thought was, right, we'll do bidding on Blockstack, which is perfectly doable, but it's a little harder than you think. It's easier to build the functionality than it is to get people to use it, for sure. Particularly if you're starting a kind of marketplace that's multi-user environment from scratch, that's a hard problem. So I'm working in the background with partners to kind of get investment where we're looking at bringing in aggregators in specific sectors to help. So if we can onboard some auction houses, then we could onboard and build technology that brings in 30,000 users from this auction house's database and give them a workflow that onboards them into Blockstack organization. So that's kind of where it's at. I'm kind of more of an infrastructure builder than an app builder. So app mining is a little bit of a struggle. But hopefully when it goes up to $1 million a month, maybe the money will then filter down the chain a little bit. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Just thinking, so you own the data and the data exists on your data storage place. So So when it comes to bidding, I bid X amount.
Yeah.
Is that bid still on my data storage? Or?
Yeah, so that's up to me how I implement that.
Yeah.
So one way of doing that is to store individual users' bids in their guide storage. But then I could also build a local tree of the bidding structure, which is obviously cross-using. And I can create a smart contract that stores that in the blockchain.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. So there's so many ways of doing it.
Yeah.
It's like just it's kind of fun thinking of different ways of getting it transparent and secure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an excellent question. I've thought a lot about that.
Are there standards for structuring that data?
No, so yeah, it's a good question. Like Blockstack are working on things I think called collections, where they're trying to get a kind of uniform schema for people that are building photo sharing apps. So everybody stores user photos in the same schema, and that's kind of ongoing research. Yeah, and it would be a kind of community thing. There's nothing to stop me as an app ignoring that and using my own schema. But ultimately, if you want the data to be transportable between two apps, that's a hard problem. Somebody just stores the data in their own internal schema. It's become very hard to kind of transform it into another schema.
Mike, do you know if you can, if it's a kind of Facebook type app, social, do you keep your followers if you move to another one? Does it work like that as well?
I mean, that is sort of a really good question. The way this is very early stages for that kind of conversation, and the way I see this what's working is that reputation is an ecosystem-wide thing. So I think your reputation should actually be linked to your online identity.
Yeah.
And then you can bring that to whatever app. And maybe followers is something along those lines. But I mean, at the end of the day, a follower would be another Blockstack ID.
Yeah.
So in principle, you can take your followers with you.
Yeah.
If you go from Reddit to something else.
Do you know how the financial distribution on the app mining works? How is it decided?
Yeah, I skated past that, but they basically have done their kind of really clever thing of working out an algorithm for. So the way it actually works is there's 4 voters: Product Hunt, Awaria, which measures social media reach, Try My UI, which is testers testing your app, and then Blockstack's internal, making sure you comply with the technical stack. And they take statistical averages of those 4 voters, and it's an ongoing, every month it's reviewed, and they're trying to build an app mining system that can't be gamed. But it's hard, and it's early days how to do it, but yeah.
Well, most of the users like of these apps, are they kind of just data testing, or are they really using
Yeah, I think at the moment it's a bunch of utility apps that are kind of proving the technology. So it's not at the stage of any kind of wide user adoption. Although, it's a case of dog feeding. People within the community are using the apps. And so there's a kind of level of organic growth there. But my kind of business plan strategy is around bringing in some aggregators and bringing in users from established sites, because it's a great competitive market. Because if you can go to one event space organisation or manages events and say we can give you a solution that gives your users decentralised, self-owned identity and user data, then that immediately gives them a competitive advantage over all the others. So it feels like there's a proper business plan in doing that, and then that's the way of really kickstarting the user acceptance. Is that it?
I've got a question, one more. With Gaia, you talk about the fact that it can abstract all the storage and sort of in the layer below. Is there a way that you can configure that within the app, or how does that work?
So Gaia is a very simple kind of service that runs, and at the moment it's still kind of experimental and early days. So now what you're seeing now is a number of projects that have done well in app mining, starting to go, right, how do we build management applications for users to actually configure them? Because running your own Gaia Hub now is way out of anyone's ability. So what we need is a kind of applications that manage that on behalf of users.
Right.
So what will emerge is decentralized apps that help you configure and set the credentials for your Gaia Hub to be able to connect to your Dropbox. And there'll be a plethora of solutions like managed hubs, shared hubs, and self-hosted user hubs.
So at the moment, are all those app pointing stuff, yeah, but
They're all pointing to Blockstack's Gaia Hub.
so they've made.
Yes, they've made
it's
one
on
big
some
bucket.
server.
Yeah,
server.
yeah. And that is that's an area of active. That's what I'm looking at the moment.
How much does it? Because I'm guessing it costs to get onto the network. What?
Just show you mine. Show you.
Oh, sorry, I mean to create an account. Because surely that's going to be encoded.
Well, there's an algorithm for for how short your ID is.
Right.
So at the moment you can buy a free ID. You get free IDs. Blockstack. But you can buy an ID if it's like I think Cohen.id costs me like about £10 in Bitcoin.
You mentioned that it's sitting on the Bitcoin blockchain. The developers being paid in Bitcoin, but there's a stacks token which is being used as fuel, if I'm right. What's the future look like? Does that mean that developers will be paid in the fuel with stacks token?
Yeah.
And will that then be settled on the Bitcoin in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Is that the vision at the moment that you know?
Yeah, I imagine so. I don't know the details. I think the increase is over the £100 a month they're paying in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They will start paying in stacks.
Yeah.
And then stacks will become, after 2 years, stacks will become tradable.
Yeah.
So they're not allowing stacks to be tradable because they don't want a big pump and dump thing with them. So they're releasing them gradually over a 24-month period.
Uh-huh.
So I think that miners will start to get paid in stacks, which will then you'll be able to trade after the 2-year period.
Okay.
I think that's what's happening.
Right.
Where are stacks stored? Are they common on the Bitcoin blockchain, or are they there?
No, stacks are the native coin of Blockstack's decentralized network.
How are they tracked then?
And they're tracked by proof of burn from Bitcoin.
Right. Okay.
They're created by burning shell.
Okay.